What is up, Mets fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Mets'd podcast. More spring training games, more interesting things to talk about. We've got a lot of young Mets pitching prospects who made some spring training appearances and were really impressive. Blade Tidwell, Brandon Sproat, Dom Hamill even got on the mound for a little bit. All of them had really impressive outings. We saw a little bit more of Juan Soto. We saw a little bit more of this team. We saw Clay Holmes pitch again, which, I mean, we're raving about Clay Holmes on this podcast. It's going to be the Clay Holmes podcast for sure. It's going to be a very pitching dense episode. Of course, the past 3 or 4 days as well, the Mets haven't had a ton of StatCast data. So a lot of it is going to be box score reading because there also wasn't a lot of film of a lot of these games either, which is super annoying. But there's a lot of good things to talk about. So as always, if you guys are enjoying the podcast, this episode, make sure you're subscribed over on the Mets'd Podcast YouTube channel. And if you're listening to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, drop us a rating, drop us a review, download, and subscribe. James, I think this is the first episode we are both back in New York since your hiatus of being in the country. How's it feel to be back?
Yeah, literally since the middle of January, but it feels good. Happy to be back. First weekend back in New York was really nice. I know you were just in Vegas, which also seemed like it was pretty fun, but so frustrating that it's the Lord's year of 2025. We can't get either StatCast or video or the TV broadcast on these spring training games. We're watching journalists take videos from the mezzanine, and then we're checking out MLB.com game day. It's annoying because there's so much to garner from these games. The few games that did have StatCast, really excited about. Even, I don't know if you saw it, because again, you were away. Donovan Mitchell was tweeting man, can we get more of these spring training games on TV? It's like everyone, Donovan Mitchell just wants to watch Blade Tidwell and Rafael Ortega like the rest of us. But I really want to start with Blade Tidwell. Bring it there, because he did something on Saturday that few people have done in the history of baseball. That was throw an immaculate inning. I know that it might not count because of spring training. Blade Tidwell also came off the mound and said himself it didn't count to the journalists. But I don't give a shit. He was all against major league hitters. He looked incredible. Again, I say he looked incredible from the videos, from the mezzanine, from the journalists. But immaculate inning is immaculate inning. You get 3 strikeouts and 9 pitches, 3 major league hitters, and it should garner a lot of attention.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Passan tweeted about it. He had to make the adjustment because MLB Game Day originally scored it as a immaculate inning on 9 pitches, 9 swinging strikes, and a strikeout. Wow. That would have been generational type stuff. You should play the lottery if you do that. But yeah, getting Eloy Jimenez, Jose Caballero, and Josh Lowe out in that order for an immaculate inning, extremely impressive. Josh Lowe's a really good baseball player. Caballero and Eloy are now kind of more 4A guys trying to make rosters, play every single day type thing. But Josh Lowe's a really good ball player. And for Blade, who's a guy that has very much been a fringe prospect right now as to what his future could be, it's still up in the air whether or not he is going to be a true starting pitcher moving forward. Maybe he's a guy who's better off in the bullpen. But these are all things that, just again, for the pitching lab, for Jeremy Hefner, Eric Yeagers, once again showing off how they can just improve players and make them even better. And it's not that Blade wasn't, I think he was a second round pick by the Mets a couple years ago. So he's a guy with some hype around him coming out of Tennessee SEC school, but they just continue to make these guys better and better. And it seems like the more time you spend around Jeremy Hefner, the better you become as a pitcher, because everything he touches turns to gold seemingly.
It's also funny because when Blade came off the mound, he said he didn't even realize he threw an immaculate inning. He's like, I was just focused on, executing. And I was like, cool, struck out the side. That was nice. But Mendoza and Hefner said they immediately knew exactly what happened right when it happened and told him, which is funny. Also love that he finished all 3 of these strikeouts in the immaculate inning with 3 different pitches. The first one to Lowe was a gyro slider right below the zone after getting 2 called strikes. And then, or 2 pitches in the zone. I don't know if they're both called strikes or not, because again, we can't trust game day because we don't really know. And then second one was 99-mile-an-hour fastball up in the zone. And then he ended the last one with a sweeper. And he's talked about this offseason that he really wanted to cut down his repertoire, which is funny because he still has 5 pitches in the repertoire, 5 pitches he showed so far as spring training. And that's the 4-seam fastball, the sinker, the gyro slider, like the little tight little slider that just drops down a little bit, big sweeper, and a changeup. Last year, he threw all of those, but he also had a cutter and a curveball. He threw the cutter a good bit, the curveball not so much, but he said those 2 are out right now this year. He's going to focus on those 5 since he wants to master those 5 before expanding to more, which again is funny because he's like, I want to cut down my repertoire to 5 pitches. That'd be one of There's a big repertoire, 90% of major league starting pitchers anyway. And he's like, yeah, this is me really trying to simplify my game.
And this is the thing that always excited me about Blade is that fastball. And we've only really seen it in these small samples when he hasn't gone deep into games, that he can get that fastball up to 98, 99 miles an hour. And that made me so excited about him when the Mets took him in the second round a couple years ago, was because at Tennessee, he was kind of in that similar role where he wasn't always making these long starts, but every time he got into the game, he had the ability to flash some top end stuff, throwing near 100 miles an hour. That slider really good with a nice changeup. So I'm glad that we're starting to see it come together a little bit, especially because we do know that there might be a way at some point for these guys, and we're going to talk about a few more prospects, to get some appearances at the major league level this year. The Mets have a ton of AAA guys ending the year last year there that can be major league pitchers this year. We haven't seen that in a really long time in the Mets organization, and it's cool to see a guy like Blade Tidwell, who is homegrown for all intents and purposes. He's only been a part of this organization, to see where he's come and now turned into a solid little pitcher so far.
Besides David Peterson, Tyler McGill, who's the last homegrown Mets pitcher to make an impact in the major league team? I might get Budo too, but like truthfully,
Budo.
Who's the last one to make like 40 major league starts?
Like Robert Gesellman?
Do you think he made 40? 40 might be the line for him and Lugo, because before then it's literally Wheeler and Matz.
I think it is going to be Gesellman.
It's amazing to see.
Do we call Lugo as like one of those?
I just said him too, but I think I'm going to put my line at 40 starts, by
the way. For
that's what I'm saying. Who's the last homegrown Mets pitcher to make 40 starts for the team?
Are we forgetting somebody? Could there be someone? I'm going to let you keep talking about pitching. I'm going to try to look up this answer here.
I truly think it's Steven Matz, but check me on that. But it's also interesting just to go expand more on Tidwell's outing, because he did throw 2 innings, and overall in 2 innings he struck out 5 of 6 big league hitters he faced. And again, there's no StatCast, there's no broadcast, so it's just like we can't really identify that much. But like you said, the velocity for him taking up is a huge deal. And again, so probably also improved command, but this is a huge deal. I don't think you get immaculate inning with bad command. But we also saw last start, he did some StatCast day. Then again, the velocity playing up kind of elevates all of his pitches. It kind of pushes him to be this kind of, I don't want to say world beater, but it pushes him to be this really, really much more effective pitcher in these short sample outings. Then he goes back to the 5-6 inning played. We see the fastball dip down 94, 95 with still subpar shapes, and he's not the same guy. So I just wonder if there's something in between. If we can just keep working on his velocity, maybe just get stronger and maybe elevate that velocity for longer outings, or if the future for Blade Tidwell, for them to be the most effective pitcher possible, is someone who pitches shorter time. Maybe someone, again, we're seeing Max Kranick right now also be like ferociously dominant in these 2 innings things.
Really good.
So again, I wonder, like, the Mets have been talking this year. Mendoza mentioned specifically that you might see some piggyback guys on some outings. Like, I wonder if this is something that might happen towards the middle of the spring, early summer, late spring, where, I say late spring like May, not like late spring training, where Clay Holmes starts a game and he goes 4 innings, then Max Kranick or Blade Tidwell come in for 2 because they're in the major league roster. Like, I wonder if that's the future of how we combat all these injuries early part of the season, because I think it's really, really possible. Like, Blade just has to be, if he can gas that fastball, he's good automatically. But if he's not gassing that fastball, he really just has to find the consistency with his other pitches. Get that slider ready to go. The slider and the sweeper sometimes blend together. The changeup's nice, but just get those pitches to all be individuals, and then just have enough fastball to get by guys. There's something here. It's weird to see. You guys squint, but there's really, really something nice here.
I feel like he's one of those guys too, where and the reason I liked him so much was just watching him pitch. I was like, I think there's a really good pitcher here somewhere. Like, the stuff is too good visually from what we see on the TV. Dive into the numbers. Obviously, it looks a little bit different. Also, going back to that Mets homegrown pitcher, technically it's Jacob deGrom, the last guy. But yeah, I mean, like, that's
not true. No,
the last one to pitch for the New York Mets. Like, most
Steven
recent
Matz
one
didn't make 40 starts as a Met.
No, he did, but he's not more recent on the Mets than Jacob deGrom. Jacob deGrom was on the team in 2022.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess. Oh, I mean, the last one to get their 40 starts after coming up.
Yeah,
that's the last one to make 40 starts.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, yeah, it's Steven Matz then. It's either him or Wheeler.
Crazy.
Technically, yeah.
That's so ridiculous, but still, like, that's kind of what we're playing with now, and we have said for, like, I guess a couple of years on this podcast. Now it seems like the last couple of months. Now, hopefully, we're on the precipice of this new era of Mets pitching finally contributing to what's going to happen at the major league level. I feel like that may be why the Mets are a little bit chiller than most people would expect after the 2 of their horses went down early in spring. And it looks ugly now, but especially with Tidwell. Now I want to move on to Brandon Sproat. Like, watching Brandon Sproat Friday afternoon.
It's really good.
It's unquestionably a major league pitcher in my eyes. Like, there's no way. Like, he was sick. It was awesome. Like, Brandon Sproat was pitching really well. Juan Soto hit an opposite field home run. It was 55 and sunny in New York. Like, everything, you kind of start to feel everything in your brain, like, kind of dusting off and happening, melting down once again. But 6 up, 6 down, 5 ground balls, 1 strikeout. It just looked awesome. He looked so ready. He looked so, I won't say like polished yet, but he's very much a major league capable pitcher. It seems obvious.
I think it's like a makeup thing with him, and it's kind of like what we saw in the spring breakout. Obviously, he's going up against better competition in these games, but in the spring breakout last year, one of the things that we talked about was just he steps on the mound, he has a bit of a presence, he has a bit of like, I'm the guy on the mound. There's like a quiet confidence with him that leads you to feel more confident because he has the really good stuff behind it. So you feel like the mental side of there is good along with the physical. That fastball he threw to Robert Hassel that he blew by him, that's going all over Twitter. I mean, that thing was electric. I see that alone. I'm like, this guy's got to make the opening day roster at this point.
It almost feels like that should be probably more possible than the buzz it's actually generating, because this is a 24-year-old who dominated AA last year. Like, I don't know how much else is there really to prove? Like, I know sometimes
how much
the
better
command,
could he be at AAA? Like, Is there that much growth that he could have still by being at AAA for another 5 to 10 starts? I don't know. Maybe someone could tell us that.
Maybe it is. Maybe because just to get that two-seamer to the right spot that it really wants to be. Because that was something that was really prevalent. I think that's something I specifically was watching for, that new sinker that he's been throwing, because that's a new thing in his repertoire this year. His four-seam fastball always kind of has more of a two-seam shape. It has more run than ride on it, which means it kind of moves more side to side than like that a rising action is going to go over somebody's bat. It's also because Sproat kind of has like a three-quarter release, so that's kind of just the way that pitch moves. So having that two-seamer that can differentiate from the four-seamer, or the four-seamer acts like a two-seamer, the two-seamer like the sinker, that's important for him, especially against right-handed batters, to give guys those different wrinkles. And the first 3 times he threw that two-seamer on Friday, he got a ground ball every single time. One was against James Wood, then Ahmed Rosario smoked one like 110. But it was just like it felt like that was a really good weapon for him when he got into accounts. To kind of just to avoid damage, let the at-bat in, throw that two-seamer, let someone bang into the ground, and then kind of just walk out of there unscathed. That seems like to be more of the pitcher brand Sproat's going to be. You're hopefully going to get a lot of like 5-inning, 3 strikeout, 1 walk games with 1 earned run, because there's going to be a lot of ground balls and a lot of velocity. It's not very easily square him up or barrel him up.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be ever one of those guys with that like 25 to 30% K rate at the major league level. Maybe in an absolute peak season, but it seems like he's going to be very much a guy that limits hard contact, balls in play that are just low probability for good outcome from the opposing team, and he can just give you some length. I don't know. He seems like also he's a big, strong kid too, and that's something that all these guys at the Mets are now. It feels like they're all big, strong dudes.
Yeah, he's an ox. He was also hanging out with Doc Gooden at camp the other day, which I thought was really, really cool, those two hanging out together. Also thought it was funny, and I tweeted this, like, Sproat's 24 right now, and we're like, wow, this guy's such a good pitching prospect. Do you guys know what Doc Gooden had already done by the time he was 24 years old with the New York Mets? Because it's completely disgusting.
Read it out. Tell the people.
When he was 24, Doc Gooden had thrown 1,200 innings at the major league level with a bunch in the playoffs. He had a 91-35 record. He had a 2.6 ERA, over 32 wins above replacement. He had won the Rookie of the Year. He had a top 5 MVP finish. He was a 4-time All-Star, 24 years old. He'd won a Cy Young Award, and he'd won a World Series. At 24 years old, Brandon Sproat is not throwing a major league inning yet. Not taking anything away from Brandon Sproat, but just to get the context of how much of a freak Doc Gooden was. It's just completely fucking ridiculous. But that's Sproat. The sweeper's great. The changeup's great. That sinker's a nice wrinkle. Like, it's just, this is it. Like, he seems like just such a guy. And that's another reason to expand upon that. Why the Mets seem so chill about the pitching depth right now. I think they're like, yeah, we know we have Sproat for an easy 100, 120, 130 innings at major league level if he proves he's ready to do that. Like, it seems like that's just something they're going forward acknowledging.
All right, FT fam, collectors, there is a new, better way to buy, sell, trade, or display your sports cards. It's called Arena Club. And Kratz, I know you love it. The FT fam's got to go to arenaclub.com/foul to sign up and get a little extra something I'll tell you about in a moment. But buying in the past was clunky.
It wasn't easy. But now you don't have to worry about any of the shipping. And it's easy right there. It's guaranteed authentic too for me, so I don't have to worry about that.
Exactly. Arena Club uses blockchain technology to deliver your card immediately. There's no shipping delays. You don't lose your card in transit. There's no, oh, my dog ate the card and now you don't have it, so here's a different one instead. So right now, 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/foul. Use code FOUL. That's arenaclub.com/foul. Code FOUL for 20% off your first purchase.
Yes, and you have Blade Tidwell behind him, and then you might have Max Kranick too, who we briefly talked about, who seems like he has a really good chance to make the roster coming out of spring training. Just the stuff that he's shown has been so impressive. I know that he might not be like a guy that you're talking about like in the rotation for the future or anything like that, but in the present time, the way that we see Max Kranick being used and how teams are getting more creative with how they use guys, he would be an amazing piggyback guy for Clay Holmes, for maybe even Kodai Senga early on in the year.
It's almost getting so good. I'm like, why can he start? Like can
he do it?
Can he just be a starting pitcher? He started in the past. He was starting in the minors. He was starting with the Pirates. It's like the stuff is so electric that I feel like, because he's different than Blade in the sense of like, oh, he's so electric in these short samples of velocity's playing up. Where Blade, he needs a velocity because the fastball shapes are kind of pedestrian or whatever. Kranick, the shapes are amazing. So even if velocity comes down, I think the shapes can still elevate those pitches to still being plus, even if they come down again another few ticks if he's throwing 5 or 6 innings at a time. Because this one, he got to 2 innings again. There's 2 strikeouts, no base runners, fastball, slider, sweeper, curveball. Everything looked really good. Like, I always know that the guys are starting to leave the Mets sphere and the Mets universe when the fantasy baseball people start talking about them.
Yep.
When my Discord chats start blowing up and I see people on Twitter being like, wow, Max Kranick, maybe he could be someone who gets like in the deep fantasy leagues, like 100 innings, go to 3-something ERA for the Mets this year, get some wins, cheap wins. But that also, he looks that good where he could do that. Like, it's something that's happening right now. We should definitely be taking notice.
Yeah, no, I think the Mets Twitter world for sure is at least taking notice, and I feel like everybody likes Max Kranick too even more because grew up a Mets fan. How could you not want this guy to do well?
Yeah, season ticket holder. David Wright says David Wright was his favorite player. He's a unicorn. Like, I talked about the fastball having that rising action, why it can play up even if velocity comes down. His sliders have rising action too. They're really strange and unique. Yeah, that's what gets them so good. I don't want to say it's like deceptive.
Slider has a rising action? That doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah, watch some videos of it because it looks like kind of gets up on guys. It's like a lifty sweeper. It's very strange, but that's because. And I saw Isaac Groffman tweet about someone's, I didn't see his name, someone's shiny app they made about where a pitch is expected to go based on the movement, the arm angle, and the velocity of the pitch, and then where Kranick's pitches wind up. And Kranick's pitches are always higher than where they always seem to be. So that's kind of what playing with the hitters' minds and their eyes. That's how he's getting this freaky movement and freaky stuff. But like it's so impressive how sly the Mets were with kind of bringing him along last year. Add him to the 40-man roster as the playoffs were beginning.
He was technically on the playoff roster for, I think, the series against the Brewers. I think he was on the roster. And
we talked about the time, we were like, is Max Kranick going to pitch in this series? But I think it was just the Mets wanting to get him on the 40-man roster before the offseason chaos. And now it's just like, Tacomo, Healy, everyone's talking about him being legit bullpen beast this year. And I think he's someone, again, that the Mets are really comfortable relying on for 80 to 100 innings. They're really excited about.
Yeah, which is really good. And then I guess the last name that you guys are probably familiar with in terms of like the pitching prospect world for the Mets, Dom Hamill. I don't know if we can really call him a prospect anymore. I think he's like 26 years old now, but he's looked pretty good in spring. And we saw him pitch in the championship game against the Somerset Patriots 2 years ago. And we were really impressed with the breaking ball stuff. It was always like, could the fastball be legit? And it seems like the fastball might have gotten better because the breaking balls are still nasty.
Fastball, I think, got a lot better. All the stuff plus spring training people, pitch profiler, our boy TJ Stats. Fastball looks great. He's got high IVB, almost 20. He's got good life and a high release point. Like, he looks like a guy who's there. The sweeper's still gross. He has a changeup and cutter look acceptable now. Those are the two pitches he's been working on developing. He was unblocked in the Rule 5 draft, and no one claimed him. And he's just, again, 3 innings, no earned runs, 3 strikeouts on Sunday. He's been good this spring. I don't know. Maybe he's another guy. They haven't really just gave any desire to use him in any capacity yet at all. He's just throwing so many innings in the upper minors. I wonder what they think about him, but the fact that we can see him in the spring, the stuff looks good. I'm encouraged by that. Why not, right?
He's surely got to be a bullpen guy, though, moving forward, I think, right? That's probably where he's best.
I guess, but then why does he spend so much time the last few years and still working on that changeup and that cutter in spring training?
Listen, that's a good point. You make a very fair point. Why? Maybe they go, you could be even better if you have all these pitches.
Something that's kind of gross, but a lot of major league teams are doing now, and I think the Mets might be probably with David Stearns at the helm beginning to fall into this category. A lot of people get upset when teams don't call their prospects up soon enough. Like, get this guy up, he's ready to go. But for a team, they know they have 6 years of control on a player whenever they call them up. So it always makes sense for them, unless this player is a freak of nature, dominant psycho.
Help you win right now.
That's saying to wait until the guy's 24, 25, 26 years old, like a guy like Dom Hamill, like Blade, like Brandon Sproat, and then you have kind of just taken the whole pitcher's prime for free.
Yeah, literally.
So again, it's kind of ugly. The Orioles are famous for this. They will wait until a guy has gray hair to call him up to the major leagues, like Adley Rutschman, Heston Kjerstad, like the Kobe Mayo he's been an elite prospect for 3 years now, and he's still not going to get called up. Like Joey Ortiz was a 25-year-old prospect that got traded for Corbin Burns. Like these teams who are kind of on the cutting edge, they know that they get a lot more out of these prospects, and they're able to hold them through their entire late 20s and kind of completely encapsulate their prime while they're making no money. It's so fucked up, but like that's what these teams are doing, and maybe that's like part of the idea with some of these Mets pitching prospects. Like, let them get as much seasoning as possible. Let them come to the major leagues when they're literally ready to be like players near the peaks of their careers physically, and then just let them roll from there. Super fucked up. Takes a lot of earning potential away from these young men, but I think that's where a lot of these major league organizations are going now. I think that's probably what the Mets are doing with some of these pitching guys.
Definitely. No, and then the last pitching prospect we want to talk about is Luis Moreno.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, 6 strikeouts to end the game on Friday. That's pretty insane.
It was crazy. I was like half watching because all the backups were in. I was like doing some work on my computer, and he just came in 6 straight strikeouts, 100% whiffs on the sweepers. They were crazy, and like they weren't really that consistent. The pitch was definitely gross, but some of them were moving here, and some of them were going here, and some of them were backing up over there. But guys just kept swinging through it. Every single guy swinging through it. Like definitely inconsistent, but if you get 100% whiff rate in your primary pitch, which the sweeper was primary pitch, because the other stuff's also kind of nuts, even more nuts than the sweeper. I'll take that. Really good looking alley.
Yeah, no, of course. And then the last thing before we start talking about Clay Holmes here. We're so back. I mentioned Jose Urena, in December? I was like, what about Jose Urena? The Mets went out and signed him. That's insane. There's no reason the Mets should have ever signed him.
No, I mean, but this is sadly the end of the Jose Quintana dream, probably,
Yeah.
unless someone else goes down this week. Knock on wood. But like Jose Urena is the classic rubber arm. He's not going to be very good, but he's going to be able to pitch anytime you ever need him. He threw 100 innings last year. 100.
The fun story with him always, Ron Acuna and him hate each other.
Yeah,
Braves
true,
absolutely hate him. Interesting with his brother. That's another thing to bring up there, is that this is the guy who was throwing at Luis Angel Acuna's brother on purpose many times.
Over and over. Yeah, that was like 5 years ago now. That's old hat. But shout out Nick Pollock from Pitcher List when he used to do his daily write-ups and Urania was starting somehow every fifth day for the Marlins.
For the Marlins, yeah.
Yeah, he always used to make his little puns that he loved so much. He was like, if you're starting Jose, you're in, you're out of trouble.
Nice. That's very Nick.
Nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. But yeah, he's just the classic rubber arm guy who has a fastball with above average velocity. So he's going to show up 75 innings, 4.4 ERA. Great.
Let's give the people like 2-3 quick minutes about how great Clay Holmes looked again, because I'm really starting to drink the Kool-Aid here.
It's getting crazy. There's another one where it's getting hot in fantasy baseball circles. He's rising up to like the top 100,
especially because he's got
high stakes
relief pitcher eligibility probably in most leagues, right?
That's really big for like our ESPN leagues. But even I'm saying the guys in the high stakes leagues, the big money leagues,
Really?
the NFBC, he's going like inside the top 200, like around the top 150, like top 40, 50 starting pitcher. Like it's getting to be that ridiculous. I mean, through shutout innings against an Astros lineup that had mostly big leaguers, Yordan Alvarez, like he got Yordan Alvarez out twice in 3 innings.
And that's a lefty. That's huge.
One of them was a 412-foot fly ball, but those doesn't matter. We're not counting that. The ball was caught. It doesn't matter. But like him just becoming this 5-pitch guy seemingly overnight is ridiculous. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like the Yankees had to be looking at it and be like, what the fuck? Like how in the world this just happened? I know he has his old pitching coordinator Desi Drechel with us now with the Mets, but like it's crazy. Like the fact that he's out there with a slider, a sweeper, a 4-seamer, a 2-seamer, the kick change.
Yeah, having 5 pitches is ridiculous.
That's it. Like that's a full blown starter right now. But I got to throw a little bit of cold water on the ace stuff.
Do it.
I gotta do it. I'm gonna pull
ace stuff. Yeah, that's
the ace stuff. Like I mentioned last time that the big thing for Clay Holmes to watch was velocity. He had the 2-inning outing. It was 30 pitches. I was like, he got to 97. His averages were over 95. Like that's huge. If he's there, he's elite. This was a 42 pitch outing, 3 innings, and the velocity ticked down a little bit. Got to 96, but he sat 94. And you could see the stuff readings really come down, that sinker and that fastball, and they're 94 miles an hour, especially when the sinker used to be 99 out of the bullpen. If he really wants to be like nasty, like a legitimate, good starter, he has to keep those above 94. And that's as low as I think they can go for him to be like a 3 starter, which is where I kind of want him to be, which I think where the Mets team might need him to be in the early part of the season.
Yeah,
so
that's a good heat check too.
Yeah, it's a great heat check. So I'm just saying that throwing a little cold water right now. He needs that 94. The fact that he was only 94 for 42 pitches makes me think this will be more like 92.5, 93.5 when he gets to 70, 80 pitches. And that will be more of like the back end star that was predicted the whole time rather than this like guy who's like, wow, could Clay Holmes be starting like the second or third game of the year? So just little devil's advocate, throwing some cold water on it, like keeping everything realistic here. But
also we're so pumped and excited.
Yeah, freaking out. I mean, I was freaking out last week. Just seeing that was like, that's new information. Want to take that into consideration and keep an eye on that as next start because I'm sure he's going to get to 50, 60 pitches soon. So just keep an eye on those fastball velocity readings. We definitely will be. I definitely will be.
Yeah, of
I
course.
know you guys at home will definitely be as well. So something to keep an eye on.
It's one of my favorite things to do on Baseball Savant at the end of every single day. Just like look up the guys who've like taken the hardest swings, hit the ball the hardest, who's thrown the hardest swings and misses. That's fun stuff about spring training. I quite literally don't care if the ball was hitting to the ground, hitting the air, if you swung and missed. Sebastian Walcott is 18 years old and hit a ball 150 miles an hour today. That's unbelievable.
Now, there's some 18-year-olds in this country that are playing with metal bats. They're not going to hit the ball close to that hard ever in their entire lives. Sebastian Walcott is an 18-year-old with the wood bats. It's completely fucking ridiculous, disgusting. I've been doing that on Twitter, too. I'm just picking like a random-ass dude every single day and saying something cool he did in spring training. I've gotten your boy Evan Reifert so far.
Nice. When are you going to give my boy Halverson some love?
I was going to give him some love the other day, but I did that day. I did Augustine Ramirez because he got to 115, which I thought was nice. And I did Landon Rope one day because I did Landon Rope's like one of those weird-ass Giants
right?
pitchers.
Yeah,
which is weird stuff. Walcott's going to get the love tomorrow, but it's for spring training is so much fun for this stuff. Like I don't care about stats. I don't care about batting average. I barely care about home runs. I want to know how hard you hit the ball, how hard you swung, and if you have new pitches or they're moving differently. That's it. That's the best.
No, totally. I'm with you on that. Last bit of pitching stuff. We got some updates on Kodai Senga as well. 1 inning on Monday against the Marlins. When you guys are listening to this, he will be throwing his first inning of the spring, which is good because we need him so badly. We need him to be healthy. We need him to be back. I don't need him to be ace ready on April 1st. It doesn't matter to me. We need him at his sharpest by the end of the season because he really does change what this pitching staff looks like moving forward.
You can't overstate how important he is to this team right now without Manaea Montes. It's kind of scary how important he is, given how last season went. It's all horrifying, but I just keep remembering that one Friday evening. I was against that Braves or Phillies.
The Braves when he hurt himself in the same game.
Well, he was just dominant the whole game.
By the way, I know a lot of people, I feel like, were giving Kodai crap at the end of the year for not stepping up in the playoffs and like not pitching that well. He won a game. That game that he won against the Braves literally got us in the playoffs, if you think about it. Good point. And pitched really well in the first game against the Phillies. That really elevated us to winning that series. Like, if you don't win that first game against the Phillies, everything might be different. But Kodai's great, and he's going to throw more innings in the backfield. So he's going to throw one inning in the game and then just go to the backfield for sitting game to finish it. So I'm sure he'll get up to 30, 40 pitches in that. But so damn important. And that one start last year, he was really, really good. So we're hoping that's just it all comes back together. Then a couple other pieces of news, just some hitting stuff to go by. I know about 2 minutes ago, I said I don't really care about any spring training results, but I'm going to care about Brett Beatty's a little bit because they're really good. That's it. Mr. March is happy. He's Brett Beatty's time officially, and he's still been hitting. He had another home run, the single off Shane McClanahan. There's a fun piece of information from my buddy Rob on Twitter. Brett Beatty's had 13 plate appearances against major league pitchers this spring. People are like, oh, he's only hitting the minor league pitchers. That's classic quadruple A Beatty. 13 plate appearances against major league pitchers. 417, 462, 760 triple slash. That's a 1,200 OPS. I want him to succeed so badly, not only just because it helps the Mets, and not only because we've been big Brett Beatty guys from the start, but there's a weird conglomerate of Mets fans now who are just like doing the whole classic Brett Beatty can only hit in the spring for a player type thing. I'm like, why are we not wanting this guy to live up to the potential that he once had? I don't get the like rooting against him.
It helps the Mets roster so much if he's good. It's crazy. He elevates everything so much. Another lefty bat. Another guy who can play multiple infield positions.
Defensively today against the Red Sox.
So good.
Like he's
diving down the line.
He's really good.
He's become an amazing defender. So a lot of credit to him. Even though the hitting hasn't progressed as much as we hoped it would by this age, he's progressed to being a fantastic defender at third base. Like he's basically become not all the way there, but he's kind of like a Brian Hayes-ish. A Brian Hayes guy has also always been disappointing. But if you can be almost a league average hitter and play an amazing defensive third base, on most teams, you will start. Not on teams with World Series aspirations like the Mets, but most teams, you will start. And Brett Beatty, it's nice to see his little step. And also, that infield spot is fully up for grabs because it's official. Nick Madrigal is going to be out for the year with the fractured shoulder, which sucks for him. I don't know how the pay structure works if you get injured in spring training. I don't know if he's considered a major league guy. That's what I'm saying. So if he would have gotten injured on March 30th on the major league team, he gets a full year of major league salary. I have no idea what happens to Nick Madrigal now.
I wonder if technically the Mets can put him on the major league roster and then put him on the 60 AIL so he gets paid major league salary.
Would be cool if they did. It'd be nice if they did do that. But it's interesting to see between Beatty, Donovan Walton, Luis Angel Acuna, and Ronny Mauricio, who I don't think is anywhere close to being in consideration to start season with this team. But apparently they announced that he's going to the plans to play in games before the end of spring training, which I think is so huge for Ronny. Massive development because if he's in games by the end of spring training, he can start the year at AAA ready to go. And then 1 month, 2 months, maybe 3 months ramp up time till he can also be competing for this utility infield spot.
Yeah, I mean, he's another guy too where we shouldn't rush him, but whenever he's ready, he could really, really help this team a lot too. Just he has such high, I don't want to say ceiling because that makes it sound like he could be like an MVP type player, but he has the ability to do things that a lot of baseball players can't do. And that's something that the Mets don't have a lot of. So that's a player that could make some loud noises for this team at least.
Yeah, in terms of physical tools, there's not many players in the Mets roster who have what Ronny Mauricio has. That being said, in terms of hard baseball skills, they're still not really there. So we definitely need not a lot of time to see that. I did the
you got people furious.
It was the full intention. It worked like a charm, but not the intention. It wasn't rage baiting, but I just knew that Mets fans love Ronny Mauricio, and I'm like, I don't think it's that good. But our boy Robbie Hyde, Foul Territory Family, Mark's YouTube homie, he made this cool chart for the Red Sox of all these lines and all these boxes for great player, loved by fans, average player, and bad player. And the categories were again great, average, bad, and loved by fans, fans divided, hated by fans. And I put Ronny Mauricio in the bad player, loved by fans, and I got 100 replies in the Mets community about how ridiculous I was saying Ronny Mauricio is bad. My point is not he's going to be bad. I literally said in the tweet that this is for 2025 only. And for 2025 only, I would be shocked if in like 200 plate appearances, Ronny Mauricio even had 300 on base percentage. That's my only point. That was it. And if you don't have a 300 on base percentage and you don't play really good defense pre and position, you're not really that good a baseball player right now. He can be a good baseball player. I think he can be a very good defensive player, second or third. I think he's going to have a shit ton of pop. I don't know if he's ever going to take a walk. I don't know if he's ever going to be able to have any plate display. I don't know that. But yeah, that's still a good baseball player at his peak. But right now, I don't know what he can be. But I think a lot of Mets fans are like, wow, remember he hit that ball super hard one time? And we're like that too. But yes. Ronny Mauricio gets so much love, and Brett Beatty gets so much hate for very hilariously similar reasons.
Oh, yeah, no. There's a complete blind spot when it comes to how we evaluate either of those guys. Last thing we'll talk about on the offensive side here before we wrap it up. just another impressive Juan Soto home run. Just hitting
So
it opposite field against Ogasawara for the Nationals, right? That's, I believe, how we say his name. Yeah, he's got such effortless power. It's impressive. I can't wait to see like Keith just reacting to Juan Soto at bats all year long, because we would see it when we play them, and he would drool over Juan Soto. And he has the famous clip where he's like, he's not a home run hitter, he's a line drive guy. Like when he puts the ball in the opposite field, and then he puts one, I think it might be one of the furthest balls ever hit at Citi Field, onto the bridge. And Keith's like, all right, never mind. Like it's gonna be fun to watch those two.
Ronny was the guy doing this game with Gelbsy, which whatever. But Juan Soto did that amazing thing in this at bat, which we've seen forever from the other side. Now seeing it up close for our team, like it made me a little giddy, gave me a little shake, where he fouled a pitch off, fastball in the inside half, and he looked at the pitcher and he gave the little smirk, the little shit-eating grin. I was like, oh my God, what does he know? And he got back in the box, and then he went with it, a fastball the other way, just crushed it. Another opposite field home run at Clover Park, and then he just went around the base. I was like, I can't believe this is real life, and this guy's going to be on our team officially.
So fucking sick.
So sick. It's crazy.
Got anything else to talk about here, or are we done?
One little stupid story also, but Anthony DeComo said that Brandon must become a green tea and matcha guy, and Kodai Senga is really impressed by it.
Interesting. I do not like matcha at all.
I don't either. I think matcha kind of stinks.
It tastes like dirt.
Apparently there's good matcha and bad matcha. I've been told from a friend who's a matcha person, but every time I've had it, it's just like kind of grainy.
Yeah, super grainy. I feel like it's grainy, tastes like dirt. Green tea, Arizona green tea. That's fantastic. Not a sponsor.
Yeah, but that's different. Arizona green tea is basically like drinking soda. But Arizona green tea is like the greatest thing on earth. I try to drink 1 or 2 a week, because in high school I think I drank 1 a day.
It's got to cure things.
It's like the most incredible thing on earth. I think I would bathe in it if it would actually clean me. But it's one of my favorite things on earth. But also hot green tea. I love hot green tea. But it's funny. Apparently Kodai was like super impressed that Brandon must have been a matcha guy now.
Not a matcha guy on this podcast. That's not me.
No matcha guys here. But I mean, this team just seems like they fucking love each other. And that's so great this time of year.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. We got good vibes going into the regular season. Of course, there's going to be more Mets baseball, so we will give you guys an update in an episode later this week. And we're hoping to get some guys on for some interviews here, some reporters, some people in the Mets world, some former Mets players. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the Mets'd Podcast YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of that, as well as our audio feed on Spotify, Google, Apple, wherever you listen to us. Drop us a rating, drop us a review, download, and subscribe. You can follow James on Twitter at
James_Shiano. A lot of you guys hit us up for the intern message, the end of the last podcast. We've been going through the messages. A bunch of you guys reached out, though, so I have a bunch to go through. But, yeah, we're going to talk about that this week and probably reach back out to some of you guys with some stuff.
Yeah, we appreciate it. You can follow me on Twitter at GiraffeNeckMark, and we'll catch you guys all on the next episode. Peace out.
Peace out, guys. Let's go Mets.